So from the previous year that we did, we learned that all of the sons of Saul had been killed. But the people who killed these people, they killed them, who were on the side of David, they themselves were punished by David and were killed. And their heads and their hands and so on and so forth. I don't really understand all of that, what the meaning of that is, but that's what he said. The head of Mephibosheth, let me say what Mephibosheth means. In Hebrew, Mephibosheth means from the mouth of my shame, of shame. It was a person who's looking at himself in a very low way. It says he's not haughty, the opposite of haughty, Mephibosheth. From my mouth comes this feeling of shame about my own self. So anyway, now we're moving on. All of the descendants of Saul are dead, and David is not happy about that because he felt that they were righteous people, although they were his enemies. And all the tribes of Israel came to David to Hebron, and they spoke. They were saying, "Here we are your bone and your flesh. Also in times past when Saul was king over us, it was you who led Israel out and brought them in. And the Lord said to you, you shall shepherd my nation Israel, and you shall be ruler over Israel. And all the elders of Israel came to the king to Hebron. And King David enacted a covenant for them in Hebron before the Lord, and they anointed David as king over Israel. 30 years old was David when he became king, and 40 years did he reign. In Hebron he reigned over Judah 7 years and 6 months, and in Jerusalem he reigned 33 years over all Israel and Judah. And the king and his men, so we have something else, and his men to Jerusalem, to the Jebusites, the inhabitants of the land, who spoke to David, saying, you shall not come here unless you remove the blind and the lame. As if to say, David shall not come here. Not sure what that meant or how we understand this. And David conquered the city of Zion, which is the city of David. And David said on that day, whoever smites the Jebusites, they were the rulers of Jerusalem at that time, and reaches the tower and removes the lame and the blind, that is despised by the soul of David. Therefore they say, the lame and the blind shall not come into the house. And David dwelt in the stronghold, and he called it the city of David. And David built around about from the mount and inward. And David grew steadily greater, and the Lord, the God of hosts, was with him. And Hiram, king of Tyre, sent messages to David, and cedar trees, and carpenters, and stonemasons for the building of a wall, and they built a house for David. And David perceived that the Lord had established him as king over Israel, and that he had exalted his kingdom for the sake of his people. And David took more concubines and wives from Jerusalem after his coming from Hebron. And there were born to David more sons and daughters. And these are the names of those that were born unto him in Jerusalem: Shamuel and Shobab, and Natan and Solomon, and Ibhar and Elishua, and Nepheg and Yaphia, and Elishama and Eliada and Eliphelet. And the Philistines heard that they anointed David as king over Israel. And all of the Philistines, this is the word Palestinians, went up to seek David. And there David heard of it, and went down to the stronghold. And the Pelishtim, the Philistines, came and spread out in the valley of Rephaim. And David inquired of the Lord, saying, shall I go up to the Philistines? Will you deliver them into my hand? And the Lord said unto David, go up, for I will surely deliver the Philistines into your hand. And David came to the Baal Peratzim, and David smote them there, And he said, the Lord has broken mine enemies before me like the breach of waters. Therefore he called the name of that place Baal Peratzim. Now, Peratz means something, a place that broke open. And they forsook their images, and David and his men burned them. In other words, they had idols with them that they used to try to use witchcraft and different methods to subdue their enemies. David took them and burned them. And the Philistines, and remember this is the word Pelishti, which means in Hebrew means Palestinians also. They took that word like that. The Philistines who come from Gaza. So it spread out in the valley of Rephaim. So the Philistine came up again. And David inquired, and he said of the Lord, and he said, do not go up, circle in back of them, and come upon them from against the mulberry trees. And it shall be, when you hear the sound of steps in the tops of the mulberry trees, then you shall bestir yourself. In other words, get ready, and you will go. For then the Lord has gone out before you to smite the camp of the Philistines. And David did so, as the Lord commanded him. And he smote the Philistines, the Pelishti, from Geba until you come to Gezer. This is Baruch Fleischman. This is the Tikkun Elevator Kollel, the life and times of our King David.